Let's discuss it. Okay. Got some more. Okay, I got it. Just let's go to the next one.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Call to order the meeting of Mayor and Council. If you'd rise with the invocation from Councilman Quillen.
Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting this evening, we bring your presence with us. We thank you for all you have given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and strength. Show us the way and fill us with your courage and wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. If you would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay. Council, you have in your packet the minutes from our February 25th meeting. If there are no questions regarding those minutes, I'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilman Quillen. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it is passed unanimously. We move on to our minutes from the March 5th meeting. If there are no questions regarding that special meeting and that the minutes regarding that meeting, I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman Bradley. Do I have a second?
A second.
And a second from Councilwoman Grassett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's passed unanimously. Excuse me. All right, and next on our agenda is Ms. June Merritt.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm here to introduce two of our new employees. So I'll call each one of them up. So Orlina. So this is Orlina Bland. She is our new billing representative. She started on February the 17th, and she grew up here in Seaford. She's working towards getting her accounting degree, so we're happy to have her. She's learning a lot, and we're hoping, looking for good things.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Yes.
And then
Gotta walk the line.
get to walk the line.
Now you're intimidated. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. All right, so our next employee is Lucas David. So Lucas started on January the 13th, so he's been here almost 2 months. He's our accounting coordinator. He has his bachelor's degree. I'm trying to think. He grew up in the Wyoming, Delaware, lived in South Dakota for a little while, came back home, and
my master's here soon.
we'll be doing that. So anyway, we're happy to have him. He's doing a great job for us. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Glad to have some new city employees. Next on our agenda, we're going to move on to a public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment this evening?
We have Dr. Faye Powell for public comment.
Dr. Fay, if you don't mind coming forward.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so I am basically new to Delaware. I moved here in July of last year. And I'm here to discuss, hopefully, the consideration for the possibility of having like budget for electricity. Because my issue was in December, the bill was astronomical. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do a little thing. I live by myself. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. No one lives there but myself. I cut the heat down between 66 and 68, and nothing was running except for the usual refrigerator, et cetera, et cetera. In January, the bill went up to $235. I was like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. So I continued to do, I called and I said something. I was like, how is it that my bill is this much money if I was not there all the time, et cetera? And there's nothing running. I'm the only person that lives here. No one's using any extra electricity. I unplug everything, so forth and so on. There's no way in the world this bill can go from $189 to $235 in a month. Granted, we know that it was cold, but that is no reason that this bill should go up. If I deliberately put my heat down to 66 to 68, as people recommend 68, I'm cold. But I wanted to see if that would make a difference with my bill, and the bill went up. And I was told, oh, your usage increased. And I was like, how did it increase on these days if I was out and no one was there and I come home and the most I do is watch TV? That didn't make sense to me. So I called and I inquired about all of this. I had someone come out, check the meter, et cetera. He said it was okay. My question is, for people who don't have a lot of money, not that I'm making big bucks, but the point is, we have people who are living in Seaford or whatever who can't afford those kind of payments. Maybe if you all consider doing a budget plan across the board where everyone knows what they're going to be paying every month, and they can keep their heat accordingly or their air conditioning, that may help other people so that you don't have to threaten to turn their heat off. Nobody should even be coming close to getting their heat cut off because they cannot pay the bill because the expenses of it is too much. I would like for the board to consider getting across the board payment plans, budget plans, where people are able to possibly afford it. And then if they're able to do that, they don't have to be in arrears and it keeps going up and it keeps going up and they never are able to catch up to that payment ever. And even when the summer comes, they're still paying on it if they haven't already had it cut off. So that is something that I would like to be considered for the board to look at for the electricity, because this is not cost effective for people who are indigent or don't have money, or they're seniors without, seniors don't get much. We don't get a whole lot. And if you didn't make a lot of money, I'm sure you all know the money that comes with Medicare and things of that, the things that they take out. Then you also have to pay for supplemental plans. Many of you are already seniors. If you didn't make big bucks, you don't have big bucks. And you got to choose between paying for electricity or food. How does that work? So now you're starving and you're freezing. If you all would seriously, because it really works, the budget plan works. I lived in Maryland. We had a budget plan, and I was always able to pay my bills, and other people as well who had less money than I had. So that's what I would like to be considered for you all in the future, to look into, because it is manageable. Especially, like I said, those people who do not have the money to pay for it. They should not have to worry about food or electricity to stay warm. Some people, where I live at, the building I live at, is all electricity. But some people are blessed to have the gas and electricity, so maybe they don't have as much. But for those people who only have electricity, this is a lot of money that you all that is expected for us to pay when we may not be able to. Okay, that's my one thing that I would like for you to consider. The other thing that I would like to consider and mention is that I had applied for the city council position, and I'm reading here the stipulations. I don't see where it says you have to be a resident of Delaware for a year which I was told.
It's in the charter.
Okay, but it's not on this paper. Why don't you all, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm new and I'm coming in.
Sure.
And I applied for it and I was told, I wasn't here a year. I get that, okay, because I was told. But looking at the paper, it doesn't say that's part of the stipulations for why you can't apply for that position. So I'm just
Are
saying.
you referring to the agenda?
I'm looking at the agenda, yeah.
This is not all our election requirements or the requirements to file for an elected position. This is what we put out for the deadlines to vote in the upcoming election.
Okay.
So this is not all the information that's available.
Okay.
And certainly you called our city clerk and she spoke with you.
She did.
About the
Right.
requirements. And anytime you have a question, please call us.
Yeah, oh, I have no problem. I do. I called, that's how I found out, that's why I came up literally to discuss about how much money I saw the difference was, and then I did that procedure for myself to see if I kept the heat down, how in the world did it go up? And as I said, even if it got colder in January, there's no way in the world.
And you and I spoke on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciated your comments. Just so happens, tonight, new business number 3 is a budget plan for the city. Based on
Okay.
our conversation, I spoke with
Good.
Mayor McCoy.
Good.
He was very supportive of that.
Great.
The city clerk and I did try to return your call, but I was unable to connect with you at the number that you left us. I would have given you the heads up, but your number would not allow me to leave a message or anything like that. So if you hang around just a little bit, it'll be on the agenda, new business item number 3.
Oh, I'm staying on, I'm staying for the whole thing.
Excellent.
I'm
Yeah,
here
I mean,
now.
I'm gonna make myself, a presence known,
Excellent.
because I am a resident here. And I'm very concerned about those that I see who don't have the necessities that some of us do have. They're not as blessed as we are. And I would like to advocate for those individuals. So you're gonna see me pretty much every meeting if I can make it. And if I don't, there's gonna be a reason for why I don't make it. But this is important to me.
Sure.
I believe in advocating for those less fortunate than myself. So you all will get to see me. You'll know me by first name. I like Dr. Fay. Doesn't have to be Dr. Powell. To keep it informal. But yeah, you'll see me. And I look forward to being a part of the council meetings and things of that nature, and possibly be sitting in one of those chairs down the road.
There you go.
That's the game plan. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Fay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is anybody else here for public comment? Did she leave? Nope. Okay. All right. Just going to verify. No, sir. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Going to move on to correspondence.
We have no
No
correspondence.
correspondence. New business number 1 this evening is going to be moved until a future meeting, which means we're going to move on to new business number 2 and Mr. Jonathan Moore.
Alrighty, good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So I met some of you at Representative Danny's
Yes.
breakfast, Coffee with Danny, and you guys received this, but I'm really happy that this is live streamed, so more people will be able to see this as well. I did put together a slideshow for this as well. The slideshow is essentially this in slide form, so you should be able to follow that along pretty easily there. For formality's sake, my name is Jonathan Moore. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Delaware. I work for the Delaware Department of Transportation as the supervising engineer in the bridge maintenance and construction section. And today we are talking about the planned bridge painting that's coming to Bridge 3-151, which is the Front Street drawbridge over the Nanacoke River. So we start all of our slides off with DelDOT's mission statement: every trip, every mode, every dollar, and every one. So the location map, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with where this bridge is, it's a defining feature in the city of Seaford. It's the drawbridge that spans the Nanacoke. All right, so just setting the scene on the bridge itself. The bridge is 99 years old this year. It is one of 8 operational drawbridges left in the state, and of those 8, it is the oldest one. So the original span is a bascule girder design, and that is original to the bridge. So that The lift span itself, bascule girder, meaning the girders you see on the side when you drive through it, that is original to the bridge. So it's pretty impressive that that structure still lifts under its own power. Obviously, it's had many repairs over the years, but being that it's almost 100 years old, it is a capstone feature for the city of Seaford and for Delaware as a whole. You know, we want to keep this in good shape. It's a bridge that we're very proud of. All right, so how we identified the issues of corrosion with this bridge, we have a routine inspection program. All bridges in the state fall into a routine inspection program. Usually that's 2 years on average. And this bridge had identified in that program, and you'll see at the bottom here, and I'll also show them in the slides, but there's some areas of what we call active corrosion. So active corrosion identifies as corrosion that has not been arrested, corrosion that's still in that chemical state of advancing. So I want to emphasize that the bridge is not structurally unsound. The bridge is still in structurally fine shape. The issue is if we don't take care of the corrosion, it will become structurally unsound. And a drawbridge, you know, unlike the standard I-beams that you'll see on overpasses and stuff like that, there's a lot of nooks and crannies. There's a lot of built-up members, meaning steel on steel, and those are areas that corrosion can develop faster. So another thing to note here is the last time that this bridge was fully painted was 1992, and this bridge sees a little over 8,000 vehicles a day. So the paint system, much like the paint on your car, protects the bridge from chlorides, protects from the salt water below, the rain above, debris from traffic, dirt, you name it. And so a 33-year-old paint system with 8,000 vehicles a day, you can imagine the abuse that's seen. All right. So these are some pictures of examples of what the active corrosion looks like. On the left, you'll see the active corrosion on a deck stringer, and on the right is some packed rust between some built-up plates on the bottom flange of the bascule girder. This bridge, your bascule girders are your main load-carrying members, so obviously those are the ones that we would, you know, definitely not like to see get any worse than that. All right, so the process of stopping corrosion in this state, we can reverse this. So how we do this is we first install a containment system. Your containment system, think of it as a large tent. There is hooks and hangers, various metal pieces that will all build a system around it, and then it'll have a large tarp installed around that. So once the tarp is installed, that serves a couple purposes. Primary purpose being in coating systems, there can be up to 8 toxic harmful metals and VOCs. So we want to make sure none of that escapes. So the purpose of that containment system is when we take that off, making sure none of that exits. So that's obtained by the containment system and also large vacuum units. And we have various filtration systems that go into these as well. So they're pretty complex. The other point of the containment system is when we spray paint back on the bridge to make sure you're not getting overspray. People's homes, people's businesses, people's cars, stuff like that are not getting coated. All right, so the second step is once our containment is up, how we achieve stripping the steel is with a large media blast unit. I'm sure you've all seen and heard of sandblasters. Think of this on a very large scale. And what this will actually do is use tiny steel shot balls, and we shoot them in a high-pressured stream at the steel, and that strips the steel down to bare metal. And then in that process, I had discussed the large vacuums. The vacuums not only suck up the debris that are coming off, but they collect the steel balls, and they have a filtration system that will allow the steel to be recycled and reused. And then fourth step in this process is once it's stripped down to bare steel, we go back with a high-performance 3-coat system. That system has a zinc primer, an epoxy mid-coat, and a polyurethane top coat. The polyurethane is where you get the pretty color. Then the fifth step here would be cleaning the concrete. So that can be achieved through shot blasting. At a lower rate, we'd probably use a silica bead instead of steel, or you could do it high pressure jetting. And then the sixth step would be coating the concrete And we're going to use a combination of both of these coats here. Epoxy will be in the areas that expose to water frequently, and silicone acrylic are going to be on your areas near traffic, like bridge rail, stuff like that. So the big question is how it affects travel on Front Street. So once the containment is on the bridge and the design of the bridge will not be open to traffic. So this will encapsulate the entire bridge, the grid deck, the beams below it, the beams that run up the sides. So, however, there is a lot of foot traffic out there, and I've been in Seaford for the past 2 nights. I've noticed how many people are walking across that. And we've had other projects here as well that was noted. So the bridge will remain open to pedestrian traffic during this operation. We'll have at least one sidewalk open at all times. And then there are going to be portions of this project that require the bridge to be in the open position. Over top the counterweight pit, there's steel beams that can't be accessed unless the bridge is open. When that happens, we're going to be providing a free of charge shuttle service that's going to run side to side on the bridge. And the longest wait time for that shuttle service, we have it written into the contract, it can be no longer than 15 minutes. Now, we've planned this in a time period when we think that pedestrian traffic will be low. So the time for the bridge to be in the open position will be 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. So at 5 a.m. it has to be closed, it has to be fully restored to pedestrian traffic. 9 p.m. is as soon as it can be open. Can't be open at 8:59, has to be 9 p.m. So just some things to take into account there, but we will have that shuttle service. The shuttle service has to be ADA compliant, and the shuttle service has to have areas for bicycles to be stored for people that are taking that route as well. So this is a little small here, but if you pull out your detour route here, I know it looks like quite a bit, but basically if you looked at the hashed area right there, that's our bridge. Then you have Middleford Road, Route 13, and High Street. What this detour is essentially telling you is that if you're trying to go south on Front Street, you would take a left on Middleford Road, then out to 13, then a right on High Street, and back to your destination. And vice versa, if you were going north on Front Street, you would take a right on High Street, out to 13, Middleford Road, and back. Now, one thing to note is at the meeting with Representative Short, I had discussions with the Seaford School District, and we have another bridge in the area. It's 3-256, which is Poplar Street. It's the spillway bridge right across from the hospital. That's also on this painting contract, and Seaford made it known that it is a very important bus route for them, and having both of these under detour at the same time would really jam them up. So what we're going to do is allow these projects to run consecutive but not concurrent. So it's written into the contract that these can't be under detour at the same time, but in order to make sure we're getting the best bang for taxpayer dollars, the contractor has to move one to the next. So if we allowed them to leave the area, we get hit with a mobilization fee, and that's quite a bit of wasted money. Yep. So that's the benefit to trying to do them at the same time. You get a better deal if you do them at the same time. But obviously we don't want school buses and school traffic jammed up. We were trying to alleviate as much of that headache as possible. So that's why we're doing it that way. All right, in the back side here, if you flip your sheet over, all this is saying is this is our bridge, and these are our sidewalks. So we're going to have one sidewalk open at any given time. You have two sidewalks on the bridge, and this is just showing how pedestrians will be routed from one sidewalk to the other as they're working on that sidewalk. And we'll have temporary curb ramps built in place so people that are in need of ADA facilities will be able to get up on the curb and then continue on their way. All right, so the schedule of this, based off of traffic studies and weather and boating traffic, which the surprising thing out here is when you're in the summer months, we've actually learned that bridge opens more than 100 times in a week, which is very impressive. But in order to get outside of that big boating fluctuation, the best time of year to do this would be October 1st to April 30th. Now, that doesn't mean we're closing the bridge from October 1st to April 30th. The duration will be about 10 weeks, weather permitting. Now, Painting, if you've ever painted something, I'm sure you know you don't want to paint in the rain, you don't like painting in the cold. The backside of the products, all tell you the temperatures. Now, when we put that containment up, we have ways of creating artificial climate, but we're still a little bit at Mother Nature's mercy here. So we will be using artificial heat, we will be utilizing artificial climate, but these are all things to consider if you get snow and stuff like that. So painting January, February, probably not going to happen. We're probably going to try to push it to the beginning of that schedule, or push it to the spring, early spring of that schedule. So, but the window that we have to work with will be between October 1st and April 30th. All right, with that, I am going to open the floor for questions, comments.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Myself, personally. This beginning there at the end, you said 10 weeks in duration. Are you talking for both bridges in that 10 weeks?
10 weeks will be for the Seaford drawbridge alone.
Okay, and then, did you know how long for the other bridge by any chance?
Poplar Street is a very simple design.
Okay.
I would say we could be in, I don't want to undersell this to you, but less than a month.
10-4.
Yeah.
And that'll be following,
Yes.
it'll come second? Okay.
Yes.
A colleague of mine had a question regarding the raising of the bridge. Will it still remain functional for boaters?
When the containment is on, the bridge cannot be lifted. So that there's a couple different issues there. One, it'll damage the containment, but most importantly, it'll probably damage the bridge. And then we also had looked at this originally, painting it and leaving it in the up position the whole time we painted.
Okay.
But the bridge is 99 years old,
Yeah.
and it was never designed to hold itself that straight for that long. There's a lot of concerns with putting that kind of pressure on the braking system and the lockout system for that extended period of time. We didn't think that it was safe for the structure to stay like that. So it will be closed for boating traffic, and we have been in coordination with the Coast Guard in regards to that.
Okay.
So there'll be some specific Coast Guard requirements that the contractor's going to have to follow in terms of like keeping navigation lights on, coordination with the Coast Guard, stuff like that. So large vessels will not be able to traverse this. Small vessels should still be able to use the outer spans to go under, but small as in fishing boats, things like that.
Have you actually done study during those months between October and April?
For
How many
the,
times the bridge actually does open?
we keep logs of that, and it's significantly less. Those months drop down to like 3 to 4. There is a fluctuation during duck hunting season where it does seem to open up a little bit, but it's no more than 15 in a week. I believe 15 was the highest we saw in that winter months, and that's usually around like November, October, November.
Are there,
Yes.
And you be working during the daytime?
Th-
Is that what you're saying?
This will be a combination of daytime and nighttime.
Oh, because I know that a lot of times I travel back and forth to the Bay Bridge, and I know that traffic continued to move on. And, nothing was never shut down. So in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, evening, where you're not interrupting school buses or any of, the normal traffic. So I know that there's special lighting, and like you said, including in your budget, that you will be including maybe transportation, but if you work more in the evening, then it will be more conducive in the evening.
Well, unfortunately, once that containment's on, the road will be fully closed. There'll be no picking it up and taking it off. So the bridge will be fully shut down to traffic use for 10 weeks. So even, I think if I understand your question right, you're saying if we worked in the evenings and then we could open the road up during the day.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
in my brain, I'm thinking how the traffic flows back and forth
Mhm.
in the Bay Bridge and how, the work was, treated
Right.
painting. And then my brother, he also did industrial painting.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to the kind of paint that you will be using and what have you, and I'm like, okay, certain things just clicked in my mind, and I'm like, okay, to me, evening work, but,
The the Bay Bridge, a good example, they were able to build their containment in such a way that traffic could still utilize the bridge. For this bridge, we have what's called a steel grid deck, meaning if you ride across that bridge, the deck is made out of steel meshing, and it's straight through. All of those beams and everything underneath that, including the deck itself, will be painted. So there's no way to allow traffic to drive over that and still contain the steel shot and the painting system that we'll be using. Everybody who would go across that would get coated in something.
Okay.
And also the hazardous chemicals and everything like that. There's no way to tarp that off and not allow people to drive through that exposure without completely tarping the bridge. Yeah, so during the time period, the only safe way to keep people protected would be to fully close it off.
Are there any additional questions or comments from council?
I got one more question.
Councilman.
And when you're working in the evenings, we do have the apartment complexes right next to it. What kind of noise level will you have coming out of there?
So we did send out a noise survey to that apartment complex last year. We received no responses back. So the best I can describe it, the blast unit is going to be your loudest, and it sounds like large shop vacs. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like large shop vacs. So the only portion of the bridge really that we plan on doing in the evening is the portion when the bridge needs to be raised. So you're talking about less than 1,000 square feet of steel that we'll be doing. So put it in perspective, I anticipate no more than 4 to 5 shifts to get that portion done. It's a relatively small portion, but so we, like I said, we did send out the noise survey. We received no responses.
So you're just talking about a few days.
What's that? It'll be a few days of disruption. The closest people that would probably be able to hear it would be that apartment complex. It is a loud process. I don't think that people are going to be able to hear it very much inside their homes. I think you would have to be actively listening for that to hear it. But it does make noise.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions from council? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
All righty. Well, thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
I believe you all have my contact information. We'll be working closely with your police staff for enforcement of the detour when it's in place, and also monitoring lighting on the signals as well. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will try my best to help.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. On to new business number 3.
Hello.
Good evening.
Okay, so, in the light of the high consumption electric bills over the past couple of months, I've been asked to put together some information on budget billing. We did have budget billing in the past. It wasn't really, our computer system that we had didn't really track it very well. And to be quite honest, it wasn't really used. It wasn't utilized very much. My recommendation, if we want to go with a budget billing, I would recommend starting it in a low consumption months, like May, like the May billing that would go out in the month of April. And I would calculate it on 12 months, 12 previous months of usage, and divide it out by 10. That would give the customers 2 months to catch up should they have like higher bills, or they might just have 2 months that they would get off. I think we really need to put some parameters into place as far as starting the accounts. I think
that a utility account should be at a zero balance prior to starting a budget billing, so that way they're not starting off in the arrears. I believe the account should be with, follow our good standing ordinance. And the customer really needs to have at least 1 year of billing history at the resident that they're at. And the reason for that is because every house, every apartment, every individual uses electricity a little bit differently. And then we really should have a stipulation that if a customer were to miss a payment or have a payment returned, that would end their budget billing for that season. So, you have any questions about that?
Guess I have one on the
Okay.
last comment you made about the end of the season. So if they miss a payment,
Mm-hmm.
say, first week of spring,
Mm-hmm.
but then they get in good standing come summer, then they could restart? Or are you talking like a calendar year?
So it would be like a 12-month cycle, starting in May and go to the following May.
Gotcha.
It would start up again. So they would need to have good credit, be within our good standing ordinance, and have the 12 months of history at that particular location. And, basically it would be divided out over 10 months.
Any consideration for emergencies, just in case?
Ma'am,
Sorry.
no, you're okay. This is more for council's question at this time. Okay. Are there any additional questions from council?
I was wondering if, city manager, if you could elaborate on the concern that you expressed to me this morning, so that maybe people in the audience would have a better understanding of our trepidation. Okay?
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, so in discussing this with staff, Ms. Merritt, Ms. Anger have a lot of relationship with our customers. They understand our customers. They work with our customers routinely. This program, as designed, would be laid out for homeowners as well as renters. And one of the issues with a homeowner versus a renter, if a homeowner leaves our lines with a large bill, we can lien the property and we can recover our money. If a renter leaves our lines with a large bill, we can't lien that property. So the only thing we can do is take their deposit, and then if there's a loss, if there's a delta there, we have to take a loss. And the unfortunate thing is that for the utility, if our collectibles climb, we have to raise our rates so that the people that pay cover that collectible. So that's one of our concerns is, and that's why Ms. Anger, when she fashioned these stipulations and requirements, and we talked about kind of a tight timeline, if a person does not, if they're not in good standing with us, if they unfortunately give us an NSF check, things like that, we have to take them out of the program. We can't allow them to accumulate a large balance that then they may walk away from.
And if I can elaborate on that a little further, isn't that the debacle that right now Delmarva Power has gotten themselves into in terms of the rate increases?
I'm not sure on that. I can't speak for another utility.
Well,
I don't personally have them.
I've been doing a little bit of research. I'm a Delmarva Power customer, and there was in an email which I received, it was mentioned that they were paying for people that had not paid their bill, and it was spilling over to an increase to their customer. among some other issues. And,
And
that's
that
the
is a real, I believe that is a real thing. That is something we deal with, because again, the amount of money you have to carry as a utility, we have to pay our electric bill to the supplier. So we have to be able to make ends meet. And if there is a large collectible, unfortunately, those who pay have to pay a little bit more to cover that.
And to everybody's benefit in this room, and I'll reiterate this, I'm the liaison for the elected department. So right now, it's kind of my forte. Our city manager is part of a consortium. And what they do, it's a group of cities throughout the state that when they're members of that, and there are over 200 or 2,000 members in the country, entities, what they do is they negotiate the least expensive power that there is out here. So as a city, our increases have been much less than what they've been, say, through Delmarva Power and whatnot. And I applaud them for it because, this year it was only 6%. And when you take into energy costs and inflation and so on and so forth, it was quite a difference. And, I've gone through my electric bill and gone through each month. I did the same thing for my business. My business has been a mess. So in comparison, I have to applaud you. And plus, he's on the board also, so he does have a positive input. And if anybody was interested, we have handouts right out in the lobby, because I picked up one just by chance, and I posted it on Facebook for people of the city that had concerns, so they would better understand what the city did in comparison to other places.
That people who do budget billing have to understand is that there's going to be months where their bill's going to be more than what they used in electricity, because it's the average of the whole 12 months. So you might have a month where I didn't need AC and I didn't need heat, and my bill looks like it should be this, but because it's the average of my 12 months, my bill's here. And I think some people who do budget billing look at that and think, I'm not paying a higher bill because my bill's lower. That's what your bill is, because it's an average of that 12 months.
We bring it to the meeting. Yeah.
Right. So some people who start it don't understand that that's going to happen.
Can I say something? Being a person, like I said,
Ma'am,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the public comment, that's time for public comments
Oh,
is
okay.
now
Okay.
council deliberation. If I could ask a couple questions.
Okay.
You mentioned you'd like to begin this, or it'd be most feasible to begin this in May.
Mhm.
If the council were to move forward with this tonight, how quickly can we implement this?
We are short-staffed, but I could make this happen for I could make it happen in that time frame.
Okay.
And if I might add, I did speak with our Director of Economic Development and Community Relations. If this is approved, and in your package you actually have a budget billing policy that lays out what Ms. Anger talked about, as well as she took the time, Ms. Anger, to create actually an application. And Ms. Newcomer said that based on council's approval tonight, this could be posted on the website tomorrow. By the afternoon.
That was my next question.
So we are trying to move quickly because we understand timing is of the essence, and we want to offer this to our customers. I did neglect to state, I hope I was clear, this is only for residential customers. So this is not for our commercial or industrial customers. This is only for residential.
So there's a mechanism for people who may want to be a part of this program to fill out this form or come into City Hall.
Yes.
And do so.
Yeah, and again, our policy is here at the City of Seaford. If we can make a form one page,
Yes,
we
sir.
try to do that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we have one page, and we'll have that posted. We have it, so Ms. Anger and her staff, if people call into City Hall, they can fax it, they can email it. So we will do our best with our staffing constraints to get this out to anyone who is interested, by week's end.
Do you remember when we had it before, how many people participated?
When we ended the program, it was less than 12.
Oh, okay.
When was that ended? Yeah. Sorry.
How long ago was that, Kathy? I remember being on it years ago.
I know we were in the old building,
So prior to 2004.
Okay. 20 years ago.
and even this year with the high bills that we've had, I've had maybe 5 people inquire about it.
I do wonder if now, if we bring light to it, make it people more aware of it, that number might rise, specifically given the climate that we're in.
One of our comments made by our Director of Finance, and I think it's perfect, this is a tool in our toolbox.
Amen.
And if it works for our customers and we meet them where they are, you know, our
Now,
staff went through the
I've
process.
tried to work with customers to have them do it on their own, because it
Absolutely.
is something that you can pay ahead on your bill. We're not going to stop you from doing that. And I've worked with several customers on setting that up for them, and, you know, we do that yearly. But most of those are carrying a very large credit because they just don't want to get behind.
Any additional questions from council on this matter? If there are no additional questions, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Bradley, I'd like to present for approval a budget billing program for the city utility customers.
We have a motion from Councilman Bradley. Is there a second?
Councilman Quillen, I'll second.
And a second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you.
I will say this as briefly. Dr. Fay, I appreciate what you said earlier. I think the individuals up here are doing their due diligence to serve our community as well. Our city manager has mentioned it's a tool in the tool belt. This is going to be a long conversation. This is the beginning of it, but this is one way to try to meet our residents and help them best what we can. Thank you. All right. On to new business number 4.
There's also Ms. Sanger.
It's me again. So we've seen a memo like this several times now about the residential water irrigation meters. The last time it came before you, basically, it was to provide an opt-out option, and essentially it took our irrigation meters back to seasonal status. Basically, we were only going to bill April through November. This is something that has come full circle. We did that for a while, and there were a lot of challenges with that. Some of our customers, they wouldn't winterize correctly, or one thing led to another, and they would have water usage, and then come the spring, they would get a large bill, and they didn't appreciate that. So what I have asked is, we have a computer system now that will allow us to do a wide variety of things. And one of the things that it will do is it will allow us to set up a bill code that would essentially allow us to keep reading the water meters, but it would allow, if there were no usage, 0 gallons, it would bill a $0 bill. So we could take away the so-called seasonal status, and this would allow our customers that if they wanted to use the irrigation, they could use it and pay for it. They could still have it locked out and water their lawn with a hose, and then they would be paying the sewer with that. But if they don't use it, they wouldn't be billed. If they did use it, then they would get a bill. And they, you know, if they had usage, a leak somewhere, it would show up immediately.
Very good. Are there any questions from City Council on new business number 4? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion.
Councilwoman Grassett, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revisions to the residential irrigation billing policy as presented.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
A second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
On to new business number 5.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Members of council, city manager, thank you for your time tonight. As the board says, I'm here to present a request for revision to the employee handbook, section 2-103, that would address employee pay during military leave. And just for the record, I think currently the police department is the only department within the city employment that has an employee that is an active guardsman. And so our current policy reads that, of course, they will be allowed to take unpaid leave and that they won't lose any service time or anything towards the state municipal pension plan. What our proposal is, and it was requested by, members of our department as well as the employee themselves, and I think it's the right thing to do, is to allow a change to include 96 hours of military leave. And by definition, 96 hours would be 12 8-hour days. We just prefer to use 96 hours as the benchmark, where an employee, if they were to be on military leave, would receive pay in the difference between their city pay and military pay if military paid less to make them whole. And they would just have to provide the personnel department payroll with their current pay rate per hour prior to the deployment or use of the military leave. And then when they return, they'd have 14 days to provide proof of voucher of payment, so payroll could provide them with the difference. It also provides a provision within this policy that allows their deductions and whatnot to continue to be removed from their pay, such as medical or health care. And if they were to be out longer than one pay cycle and they didn't receive any pay during that period, it would be their responsibility to coordinate with the finance department to just make a separate payment for that medical health care. They would lose no pension time, just like the law states. Even though they may not have a salary where their pension is being removed or the city's paying a portion, that still would be concurrent with their pension service time.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any questions from council for our Chief of Police? If there are no questions, I'll set the motion.
Councilman Quillen, I'll make the motion to approve the revision to the employee handbook, section 2-103, that would address employee paid during a military leave as presented.
We have a motion from Councilman Quillen. Is there a second?
Councilman Bradley, I'll second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Chief.
it. New business number 6, and our Director of Public Works, Burley Mears.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening,
Council.
Good evening.
Okay. So the first item is I wanted to just announce and make the recommendation to hold our annual city cleanup week this year. It'd be the same week we have in the past, but the dates are May 12th through May 16th.
Everyone's favorite week.
I was going to say, it is,
Speak for
it is a
yourself.
big, it is a big hit.
Yeah.
It is.
It is a good week.
It's amazing.
It's good for the community. Yep.
It is amazing.
You just don't want to be an out-of-towner riding through that week.
Yes. You'll be shocked.
Okay. Do we have any questions for our director regarding the new dates for cleanup week? Okay. If there are no questions, I'll set the motion on new business number 6.
Councilwoman Grassett, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of Burley Mears, Director of Public Works, to hold the citywide cleanup week on May 12th through May 16th, 2025, as presented.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
Councilman Quillen, I'll second.
There's a second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Passes unanimously. Back to new business number 7.
Okay, so new business number 7 is bringing back speed bump policy. So just a little background. back in June of '23 was when we installed the speed humps on Magnolia and on Nylon Boulevard. During that time, we started getting some more requests, so I made the recommendation to put a moratorium on them, basically, because one, we needed to come up with a policy, and two, I really wanted to grade the performance of them through the winter months, and things with plow and snow, things like that. So we did put a moratorium on them. Council did approve a speed hump policy on July of 2023. So then, unfortunately, last year, we didn't get any significant snowstorms where we had to plow snow, so I couldn't really evaluate them. This year, we did have 2 or 3, maybe 4 snowstorms, enough where we were plowing, and we made it out fairly well with them. You know, we marked them well enough where the operators knew where they were. We did see a little bit of the thermoplastic arrow markings getting scraped off on the hump itself, but we can live with that. You know, we can freshen that up. That's not a big deal. They didn't get scraped off, or they didn't get gouged out or anything like that. So they didn't cause any problems or damage to our equipment. So I think we can live with them. With that, there's some criteria in the new policy that's made. A street must be classified as a local street, so non-DelDOT streets can't be a state-maintained road. It has to be a 30-mile-per-hour or less speed limit, posted speed limit. The street must not be a primary bus or truck traffic route. We have a truck route marked, and the bus route is more so for like a commercial bus, not necessarily school bus. So, and then there has to be an 85th percentile of measured vehicle speed that the police department will perform for us. So that's the criteria. And then there's a process. So if a resident or anyone, resident or a council member, whoever would want to have speed bumps installed on their street, there's an actual petition. I didn't put a copy of it, but there is an actual petition in the policy that we can print out and hand to people, that they have to get 75% of household candidates in the block or street to support it. And basically, you know, we want to let everyone know, everyone needs to know up front that, hey, a speed hump can be installed in front of their property, so they're not surprised when we go out there and we install them. Residents must be aware that warning signs might be placed in front of their property. You know, we have to put a speed hump ahead, and then typically like a delineator on the side of them, so we know where they are when we plow snow. So, and then once they complete the request form, then it's been submitted, we'll go ahead and we'll evaluate it, and then they would come to mayor and council for approval. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I don't have I'm making a recommendation to lift the moratorium and fall back to the policy that we have.
Are there any questions from council?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Will there be a speed study done before?
Has to be, yes.
Yes, okay. Just want to clarify that
Yep.
too as well.
Yep.
So is the process, they submit the application and the petition, and then the speed study is ordered?
Yes.
Okay.
Regarding materials and the speed bumps themselves, delivery time, anything being held up, like supply chain or anything?
No, it's pretty much just asphalt. Okay. So I don't know. The only thing we'll have to maybe talk about is how we go about doing them. You know, we typically pave one time a year.
Yes.
So I don't know if we had multiple, you know, requests throughout the year, if we're going to just run out there and put out speed humps, or if we're going to do it, you know, maybe twice a year, or when we do the annual paving, or what. We'll have to figure that out.
The implementation of speed bumps.
Yeah. Because not, you know, your larger contractors that are used to paving our streets, might not just run out and do 2 speed humps.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Any additional questions from council? If there are no questions, I'll set the motion.
Councilwoman Grassett, I make a motion to remove the moratorium on additional speed bump installations as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
Councilman Quillen, I'll second.
A second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. On to new business number 8.
Okay, so the last thing I have is I want to make a recommendation to increase the septage rate for porta potty waste. So as you all know, we take septage. Basically, it is septic trucks who pump out septic tanks in the county and bring them to us for treatment. We currently charge 7.5 cents a gallon. We raised that rate in June of '21. Prior to that, it went like 9 years or so before we ever raised the rate. So we went to 7.5 cents. Well, with that, that also includes customers bringing porta potty waste to us. Porta potty waste is much stronger in different things that we have to treat down at the wastewater plant. It takes more energy and chemicals to treat it down at our plant. So I'm making a recommendation that we raise it to 9 cents a gallon for porta potty waste.
Okay. Any questions from council? If there are no questions, I'll set the motion.
Councilwoman Grassett, I make a motion to approve the recommendation of Burley Mears, Director of Public Works, to increase the septage disposal fee for porta potty waste at the wastewater treatment facility effective April 1st, 2025, as presented.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Director Mears. And on to new business number 9.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we received 2 bids on March 5th for the waste and recycling containers that are throughout the city facilities. And one from Republic and then one from Casella, both of which have been, and Casella is currently our service provider, and it is my recommendation that we consider Casella for this upcoming one. They were the low bidder. The difference in the amount between the bidders was $1,829. They provided excellent service for us. We don't have any complaints, so pretty straightforward.
Are there any questions from council on new business number 9? If there are no questions, I'll set the motion.
Councilman Quillen, I'd like to make a motion to award the bid for waste and recycling services to the lowest bidder, Casella, for a 1-year contract with a one-time renewal option for 1 additional year as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Quillen. Is there a second?
Councilman Bradley, I second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Now we're on to new business number 10.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The city received and opened 7 bids for transformers on March 5th, 2025. The low bid was Bolt Electric at a price of $190,461. They did not bid the addendum, and when we tried to research the company online, we got a warning that the connection is not private and attackers may be trying to steal our information. So because of that, we did not proceed any further with any research for this company. We do not recommend awarding the bid to Bolt Electric. I recommend awarding the bid to the second lowest bidder, United Utility, in the amount of $220,276. We've used this company in the past and have not had any problems with it. The transformer lead times for 22 single-phase transformers is 16 weeks, and 3 three-phase transformers are 36 to 40 weeks.
Are there any questions for Director Brooke? Councilman Quillen?
Yeah, my understanding is that these transformers are for the Nylon Capital project.
Some are for the Governor's Grant project and
Okay.
the Dolby North project, which I now believe is called Hearns Crossing.
Okay. But also the Nylon too, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Am I correct? It was my understanding that part of the cost from the low bidder, it was a little bit of ambiguity in terms of there might have been some hidden fees that would come up later.
Yes, they wanted to charge $42,000 in freight. So, and had they bid the addendum, there would not be much price difference in the two lowest bidders. But considering they didn't bid on four extra transformers,
Thank you.
that's why their price is so low.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. Are there any additional questions for Director Brooke? All right, if there are no questions, I'll set the motion.
I would like to make a motion, Councilman Bradley, to award the bid for transformers to United Utility Supply in the amount of $220,276 as presented.
We have a motion from Councilman Bradley. Is there a second?
Councilman Quillen, I'll second.
There you go, a second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. And last but not least, new business number 11.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and City Manager.
Good evening, Director.
Good evening.
After reviewing some changes that other utilities have made over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've proposed some changes to the City of Seaford's rules and regulations by amending Section 9A and B, Section 10A, Section 11C and D. This would bring us closer to the changes that Delaware Electric Co-op made in January of '24. These changes basically place the financial burden on the developer for 100% of the cost of extending electrical distribution system into their development. The biggest change this does is currently they do not pay for transformers or meters, and with these changes, it would put that cost on the developer instead of on the taxpayers and utility customers in Seaford. So in your packet, you should have a red line drawing in there. 9A under meters, it adds at the end, the meters for multifamily, platted single-family housings, and commercial property will be paid for by the property owner or developer. In B, under 1C residential, it made a change to 300 amp single phase meter sockets with a disconnect switch. We don't use the K-base meters anymore. And then under commercial, a 400 amp will use a class 320 meter socket with a disconnect switch. That basically what we're doing right now because we don't use the K-base meters anymore. And sorry, that goes on 10A for services of 400 amps or less on transformer rated meters. The city will provide a self-contained meter. Any service greater than 400 amps will require a transformer rated meter. So that just changes the amperage for where we can use transformer rated rather than a plug-in meter. 11A or 11C, electric meter, the developer will purchase the meters and dedicate them to the city, and the city will own and maintain the electric meter. And in 11C3, the developer will purchase the transformers and dedicate them to the city. The city will then own and maintain the transformers. And then in 11D2, items to be escrowed, 100% of all costs to extend the city electrical distribution system. Trying to get between the lines. System are eligible for escrow. So before it said that transformers and meters were not in there. So this takes transformers and meters out and adds them on the burden of the developer. So this is the first reading. So does it get approved?
So there's no action by council tonight. There'll be a second reading, and then that's when it gets approved, should council decide to proceed.
Are there any questions from Director Bennett at this time? Councilman Quillen?
Director Bennett, just a quick question. It's my understanding that most of the development that's going on the east side of the county, most of that is developers paying their share for these transformers and these meters and everything too, correct? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're not asking any more from developers on the west side than we are from the developers on the east side. Okay.
No, Delaware Electric Co-op made the change January of '24 to go 100%. Another municipal in Delaware for several years, if a development comes in, they actually just give the developer their specs for what needs to go in there, including transformers, wire and everything, and the developer puts it all in and then gives it to the municipal. Where here we actually, most residential developments now, because sewer and stormwater has gotten so big and so deep that we can't dig it down because you need a dig box. So we get it bored, but then we pull the wire in and make all the connections. So we do all that ourselves. It's more work for us, but you know where it is. You know, somebody else doesn't bury the wire, and then you have to figure out where it is when there's a problem. So, but yes, the other municipals are making them pay for everything now. Co-op is making them pay. And, it takes the burden off the taxpayers and utility customers of Seaford for somebody to come in and build a 100-unit development.
What approximately would be the savings per dwelling?
Per dwelling?
Yeah. And just a rough number so that out of 100 houses, we know how much money's being affected.
One development we're working on now is 157 houses, and it would be about $173,000. So that's a little over $1,000 a unit.
Okay.
Another one is 40 houses, and that's 37,000. So that one would be a little bit under $1,000.
Thank you.
So for example, the order we just approved of $220,000 in transformers, if this policy was already in effect, how much would we recoup out of that order?
The 22 single-phase pad mounts, and I don't know what that amount was total for those.
Was about 220.
Yeah, all of those would be recouped.
Recoupable, okay.
Yes, and then one of the, there's a three-phase one, but it's not in that order for a lift station, which would be about, those are expensive. They're probably $25,000, $30,000. So.
Just a quick question, Mr. Bennett. Roughly what do we probably spend in transformers in a year? Will be up to $1 million a year?
Yeah, we talked about that. It varies depending upon development or projects that the department might do. But over the last few years, we were definitely north of $100,000, and some years we were $300,000 and $400,000 annually.
Yeah, I think in the in the FY '25 budget, the budget year we're working in now, it was about almost $600,000 in transformers. Now, some of that will carry over into next year, just because it's taken 40, 50, 60 weeks to get transformers. So, some of the ones in the FY '25 budget were ordered maybe in January of '24, but, they're gonna come in, well, one of them came in today, as a matter of fact, So, and that's changed a lot in our budget process. It used to be a 3-phase transformer with 16-week delivery. So when you came in with a project and, I needed a transformer for a new grocery store, they could come in and tell me what the load was, and I could say, okay, they need a 750 kVA 12208 transformer and order it. And it would be in before they got the site work done.
Like that, yeah.
Now you have to look at what's coming down the pipeline and, and try to give your best guess on what you're gonna need for them and order it a year ahead of time. So, but it's gonna reduce the stress on the budget. You're still gonna have to keep transformers in stock because you're gonna get, they're gonna go bad. Cars are gonna run into them. That type of thing. So you'll have to keep some in stock, in inventory for replacing. So you're not gonna get rid of your transformer budget.
Yeah.
But more of it will be reimbursed to the city.
Yeah. But ultimately, we're going to be having significant savings, but ultimately the developer is going to push it right down to the buyer. So,
Yes.
Any additional questions for Director Bennett? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any old business?
No, sir, we have no old business.
Okay. Moving on to our reminder of meetings.
The only item we have is the municipal election, Saturday, April 19th, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. here at the City Hall. We have 2 persons who have filed for the single council member seat. That's a 3-year term. That is our incumbent, Orlando Holland, and Jose Santos. That is all I have, sir.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to liaison reports, and we're going to begin with Public Works and Wastewater Treatment Facility, and Councilwoman and Dr. Stephanie Gressett.
All right, from Public Works, over the past 2 weeks, they've cleaned and videoed sewer mains going north on Front Street, turned water mains on in Mearfield Phase 4, because I believe that's the next phase of construction. The Arbutus Treatment Center and well were down until 3/6. They had to make some replacements. I learned a new term for a part of a pipe called a witch's hat. And they also have been videoing new sewer mains in Mearfield Phase 4 prior to dedication. They performed the quarterly state water quality sampling, replaced a service valve at 731 Magnolia, did time working on their budget. As far as the wastewater treatment and compost, the plant is running good. Have had some issues with high NH3 in the dewatering filtrate because of the increased temps. That also works towards increased biomass. They've had some scum formation as well, but they are dealing with all of those things. Dewatering, they had little change in the blend tank over the past couple weeks. Filtrate is still having negative impact on the plant. They have a blend tank cleaning scheduled for 3/25. They also have a tentative date for their secondary clarifier inspection on April 23rd. They met with a representative from Design Plastics to discuss alternatives to the FRP tanks for the hypochlorite tank replacement and replace the rotor stator on WAS pump number 1. In the next couple weeks, they'll be cammering, I don't know if that's a word or not, sewer mains on Front Street. They'll be installing a new water service on Pond Street and replacing hydrants. And the wastewater treatment and compost plant will be performing work at lift stations as needed and keeping the plant up and running with no violations. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councilman Grassett. Vice Mayor Dan Henderson has submitted his police and fire report. Feel free to comb that report at your leisure and convenience. Moving over to our electric department and Councilman Mike Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a liaison meeting this morning, and they've worked in Bel Air installing conduit, et cetera. Worked in Muirfield 1, pulling primary and secondary wire, digging secondary conduit, and connecting to new homes. Changed out a bad transformer at Sal's. Dug in a primary conduit for the new well at Hooper's Landing. They repaired a leaning pole on Delaware Avenue, and by the time I got to the liaison meeting this morning, Bill had already told me, because I saw the trucks down there, that DP&L was already in and repairing it and replacing the pole. And to do a small sidebar on that, that is one thing. Previous meeting, I mentioned that how important the electric department is, because if you don't have electricity, you can't do too much. And one thing I admire about the entire city, being a resident here all my life, is they are very proactive. They don't think about today, because today's done. It's tomorrow, next week, next month. Greg applied and received the annual osprey nest removal permit. Good luck with that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with an osprey, to be honest with you. They installed additional street lamps in Bel Air and Muirfield. Greg and Bill worked on the FY year 26 budget and the evaluations, and they evaluated bids for the transformers and made recommendations to the mayor, which we just voted on. I might add, before I finish my report, the camaraderie that we have here. I was late for a meeting last week, and my laptop was at home, and I knew I was going to have to make a motion, and my partner here swung her right around and saved the day for me. And that's what it's all about here with the mayor and council, and I really appreciate it. So that's my end of report, respectfully submitted.
Councilman Quillen's got your bag. That's all to hear.
Hey, we're school buddies.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
we're the two senior members.
Now you're telling our age. Class of 73.
Councilman Holland has submitted his report as well. It's also in your packet. Feel free to comb that at your leisure. And last but not least, Code, Parks and Recreation, and Councilman Alan Quillen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start off with the Code Department. As of year to date, we have 100 permits that have been issued. That is 14 more than we had in the last report, which was 2 weeks ago. Rental license, we're at 1,832. Rental inspections, routine inspections, and violation inspections are all ongoing. I got to commend the Code Department for getting out and getting all these inspections done in a properly manner. And also in large projects, we are doing Muirfield, and then it's in the last phase of phase 4. Bel Air is also in its last phase. Western Sussex Business Campus, no really update on that as of right now. But the Nylon Capital Project, moving right along. I don't know if we got a picture. There it is.
Yeah.
There's the sign, the lit sign.
There's your sign.
Community Bank, it's coming, it's coming. The president of the bank shared with us last week that he's hoping to open that facility beginning of April. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. He's having, I believe he said, furniture delivered on March 17th. And so we're looking forward to an opening ceremony there at that location very soon. So
Tell Jack Riddle that Councilman Quillen sent you.
there you go. Going to move over to our codes department. Our Parks and Rec department. And starting off there, they cut and remove fallen tree in Serotinus Park, clearing brush around Delaware Avenue. All the grounds for the lawn equipment care maintenance is completed, and ready for the spring operation. And thank you to Director Mears for assisting with some welding on some repairs there. Thank you, Mr. Mears. Williams Pond is open again, and all the limbs that were broken from the storm have been cleared out of there and cleaned up. Prep for the softball fields, which is going to be starting very soon, so we have some activity out there to the park with some softball games going on. The Parks Coordinator, Holston, and Superintendent Hickey attended a Delaware Recreation and Parks Society Conference on February 27th and 28th in Rehoboth. Held the Youth Basketball Championships and the skill competition, so we got there sort of two finalist teams to win the two divisions there. So looked like a bunch of happy kids there. And also now we're working on, for the spring projects, we're working on the teams and leagues and have coaches for the youth soccer program, which has over 240 kids into it. Fantastic job, Superintendent Hickey, fantastic job. And Tina. Your whole team, fantastic job, okay? Reviewed contract with the landscaping company and made some adjustments with that. Mark your calendars. Did I announce it? Okay. Mark your calendars for May the 10th from 12 to 4 o'clock. We have a downtown event called Brews and Clues. More information to come. Also worked on the FY26 budget and also completed and submitted the 2024 department evaluations. While I have Ms. Hickey here, I'd just like to say thank you very much for everything that you and your department is doing. We got a lot of things going on this spring, and I know you're going to be very busy. Also with the park side of it, you're going to be very busy starting cutting grass and getting back into that. You have a fantastic crew, and I really enjoy working with you and your crew. So thank you very much. That's my report.
Appreciate that, Councilman Quillen. I'll tag along. Councilman Bradley hit me on the head. Camaraderie, it not just here at council, also in the city, our various departments. We got a strong thing going on here in the city of Seaford, and it's because of the departments that we have working for the city. It begins with our directors. I know I don't say it enough how thankful I am that you guys are in positions that you're in and what you're doing. I know a lot of the work that you are doing are behind the scenes. If people don't see it, we see you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do. Director Hickey, Director Mears, both our directors back there, thank you all very much. And with that, I will set the motion to adjourn.
So moved. Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn our Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 meeting of City Council. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
A second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Good night.